A lot of talk of assessments in this case because, notably, before this trial, for this hearing, there was an assessment of both parties, and that's being looked at by not only their respective attorneys but the judge. Let's bring in our guest who is watching this with us. We have now national trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, it's great to see you. This is one of those cases that you start paying attention to it once you see a viral video. You start hearing that one of the biggest shows on ABC is getting canceled over that viral video, and now we understand more about the custody battle that was brewing behind the scenes. Let me first ask you about the demeanor of these two. I know this is a Zoom hearing. We're not inside of a courtroom, but you still have to have some decorum. And when I'm looking at Taylor Frankie Paul, it seems like she is pretty bored with what's going on.
I absolutely detest this woman for her demeanor. She made me hate her. Obviously, there's no jury, there's a judge, but the judge is very important, right? You want the judge to like you, especially in these custody hearings. The judge holds the power of life or death over you. And this kid, 2 years old, this judge has basically custody of this kid basically for 16 more years. If this judge hates you, and this is a young judge, so this judge is going to probably be with you until this kid is the age of majority. Her demeanor was so irritating to me and so disgusting to me. Believe me, Julie, I've been in enough courtrooms. If that was one of my clients, I'd grab him by the shoulder and say, you better sit up and stop rolling your eyes and acting like you're better than everybody. It's essentially the demeanor she put off. I think it's really a really bad look for her in front of this judge.
Now, her attorneys say when she spoke to the mental health evaluator who did the assessment that she was very transparent, that she told them what issues she had, and she told them what issues she had with her ex, Dakota Mortensen, but that she laid it all out equally. And they take issue with the fact that they say Dakota Mortensen only blamed her. He only pointed the finger at her during his assessment, and they want that assessment to be redone. Do you think that that's how assessments work? Is it possible that they'll get an assessment redone?
No, I don't think it works that way at all. The way assessments work is these are by an independent party that's doing an assessment. At the end of the day, she has this video against her, so it's not like she's starting off from scratch. He doesn't have a video of himself throwing a chair in front of his child. By the way, this judge and the assessment panel would know that a 2-year-old child, hopefully doesn't have a recollection. Well, now this kid will see this when he's 5, when he's 6, when he's 7. He'll see the video of his mom doing it. It'll live on the internet forever. This is very traumatizing. So at the end of the day, she has that going against her. I mean, she's on TMZ, not in a good way. So I think the assessments are going to stand for now.
Let's get to a break. We're going to hear a lot more from this judge inside of that Utah courtroom, Zoom courtroom, with all those parties joining in this issue over reality stars from the secret lives of Mormon wives. Don't go anywhere. There you hear it from the judge. Let's bring back in national trial attorney Michael Jaafar, who's watching with us. And Michael, we usually are covering criminal cases here on Court TV, right? We don't often see the custody cases, but this is highlighting the intersection that there often is between a custody case and a criminal case. You've got domestic violence allegations going both ways. In particular, there's one where her attorneys say he slammed her head into the dashboard of a car. His attorneys say that she interfered with him driving and was shoving his face while he was driving inside of a vehicle. I mean, that mutual combat can be very complicating to a case.
Absolutely. I spoke to a client this morning about something very similar she was going through with her husband, right? So I want the viewers to understand the significance of what they just saw. This is a judge who, after finding that Dakota, the father, committed domestic violence, still is holding him the primary custodial parent, which is so significant because you almost never see the primary custodial award going to the father. You almost always see it going to the mother. So earlier in the earlier block, we were discussing whether or not we liked her demeanor. I just thought about it. The judge obviously detests her demeanor, and something about her and her demeanor is rubbing this judge the wrong way. And because the judge's job is to protect neither parent. He's not supposed to care about the parents. It's to protect the child. So in this judge's wisdom, he believes that the child is still better off with having the father being the primary custodial parent, even after finding that the primary custodial parent committed domestic violence against a female, right? Which is significant. So yes, we typically look at criminal cases. This obviously has an intersection. I don't know, no charges are going to come forward with this, but at the end of the day, I mean, they should. If it was a man in that video doing that, he should have charges put against him. So at the end of the day, this is significant. I can't believe what I just saw.
Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed out the gender aspect of this, because that is something that I think goes along even with that viral video. Yes, this was a mother who was recorded in that. She did get arrested. There were charges that were attached to that. She got probation. And then she had this comeback story because she was still a reality TV star. She was going to be the next Bachelorette, despite those allegations, despite what had happened in the criminal world. Perhaps they didn't know about this video before it was leaked and how the public was going to react to that, even though it was recorded 3 years ago. But do you think this would have been completely different if she were a man who had been in that video? You mentioned that a little bit, but especially adding that layer of she is someone who is celebrity. She's celebrated.
Yeah, I think her celebrity would have hurt her. I think it would have been different if it was a man, but it should be different if it was a man, because a man could actually really, truly, like, he could kill a woman by throwing a chair at her. A woman, she's way less force. It's like a child throwing a chair at you. I mean, in terms of physically speaking, right? So it would be different if it was a man. It should be different if it was a man, because, it's very difficult for a female to do severe harm throwing a chair. Throwing a knife is different, right? Shooting a gun, it doesn't matter what your gender is. You're going to kill somebody if you shoot a gun. But at the end of the day, it would have been different. And yeah, I mean, her comeback story, all of that, I get it. But still, it's still significant that a judge is still holding the father as the primary custodial parent, even after finding domestic violence, which shows me that this judge really does, seeing something in her demeanor that he knows is going to translate outside of the courtroom. He even said you can't insult each other on social media, right? That's just typically like boilerplate language in these orders, but this judge made it a point to do that because he knows that this is different. She has a big platform and she could really destroy this man's life. Just think about how much she could destroy his career. If he's just a mortgage broker, if he's just a real estate agent, if she's out there and everyone in the country, she gets them to hate him, his life is over and he has no recourse. So it's significant.
So many things involved in this. Where do you think things go from here? Because she's getting these unsupervised visits. It sounds like the judge is very much interested in her getting better, which is good. It's refreshing. That's what you want to hear, that she follows the treatment, that she's getting the therapy. And the hope is that she is going to be able to get her parental rights back. I mean, that's something that's so much different than if we were in a criminal court where the focus is more on retribution.
Yeah, what the judge is trying to do is try to tamp things down and cool things down. We all know that he went into chambers after this hearing, loosened his tie, called somebody and said, I'm going to need a drink tonight. Look at what I just did. Look what I was just dealing with. I'm dealing with this really angry people. Because look, custody, like, again, I spoke to a client this morning. These things get very ugly. They don't get ugly when you're trying to deal with money, but when you're dealing with minor children, they get very ugly, very nasty. We've seen other cases in other states where in-laws will murder a parent, to have more access to their grandchildren, right? Like, they get very ugly. So the job of this judge right now is just to tamp things down. And again, he's dealing with the unique situation that one of the litigants here has a national profile and has the ability to truly harm the other litigant. Nobody's following. He doesn't have, millions of followers following him on social media. So this judge is just trying to tamp it down.
Michael Jaafar, great analysis. We have to leave it there. We're going to get a break. All right, they're taking a pause there inside of the courtroom, so a perfect time for us to bring in trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, we're getting word that the reason that the sound was cut is they are actually done with the direct examination, so they're about to move to cross. What are your thoughts about this defendant's daughter on the stand, really on his behalf?
I think it's going to go very well with the jury. If these jurors are comprised of human beings and not just complete stone robots, right? They're going to be very, very, very saddened seeing what they're seeing with this young girl. Basically, her life is torn apart. Just imagine, her father. being accused of murder, on trial for murder. She's testifying in his murder trial, talking about the death of her sister and the effect it had on him. Essentially, this is probably the worst case scenario for a child growing up. The worst case scenario. I never witnessed something like this. I can't even relate to what it would be like. I had parents in the house, right? Even if you didn't have parents in the house, even if you come from a broken family, how many people come from a broken family where their father is accused of murder and they're testifying on behalf of the father? The reason I say this is because the jury, if this does not move the needle for the jury, nothing will. This is the defense's best play and really their only play to get an insanity defense in. And so I think it's going to go very well for them in terms of moving the needle on that. It's got to affect the jury.
She is a really sympathetic witness, no doubt. And she is giving some insight into her father, because you may be wondering, okay, why is he going after his landlord? The prosecution found an eviction notice in their home, so they had been trying to get him kicked out. That sounds more like premeditation for ill means, but she's adding this layer of he believed they had something to do with his daughter's death, and he had this paranoia and was stuck on that. Is that going to be something in the juror's mind? Are they going to be able to look at the two of these things? Was he getting evicted, or was he somehow in this psychotic state?
I want to explain something to the viewers and how this works and how I think the defense attorneys are seeing. In the jury pool, there are leaders and followers. If the jury believes that they can convince one of the leaders on the jury that this person truly believed that the landlord had something to do with the death of his daughter, if they can truly, because it's so outlandish to believe that that is real. But if one of the leaders on the jury believes that this person believed that, then that jury member can peel off a few other jury members, and then they can get the insanity defense in. So I think that again, it's their only play. But that, if you're the attorney, you are speaking to the leader. You have to identify who the leaders are in every jury before a trial begins. That's how you win or lose a case, by the way, is properly identifying who the leader is and who the followers are in the jury. You don't want to convince the followers, because when they go into the jury pool, they'll usually be 9-3, 7-7, 7-5, but they'll come out unanimous after an hour or two. You want to get the leader to believe it. If the leader believes it, then you have a chance as a defense team.
And that's why so many attorneys say cases are won and lost in jury selection. Michael Jaafar, stand by. We're going to get to our break. All right, hitting the pause button on that testimony so we can get some final thoughts from our guest. National trial attorney Michael Jaafar is with us. Michael Jaafar, there are a lot of compelling things that the defense is going to be able to show to this jury, but I want our viewers to know how difficult insanity cases are.
Yeah.
There are people who can be suffering from a mental illness. They can have a diagnosis. They can even do things that support or show that they were suffering from symptoms, but sometimes that does not get them to the level of legal insanity.
Yes, 1,000%. So I've sat on court TV and I've watched cases where I felt that insanity was conclusively proven. We had experts. We had a situation where the person had a complete break from reality, reported themselves, didn't know what was happening. We've seen it, right? And the jury still comes back in the Midwest, all over the country. They come back saying, no, insanity has not been proven, right? And in this case, you have an evidence of concealment, of concealing what he did and covering it up and planning it. So this is even more further removed from reality, right? But the best that this defense team can really hope for, my opinion, is for guilt itself to be proven, but for the jury to be hung on insanity. And if that's the case, that's not a legally complete verdict. They'd have to retry the case. And so at the end of the day, look, his daughter testifying definitely helps move the needle in their favor, but it is extremely difficult. The burden is small. They only have to prove it by a preponderance of the evidence to the jury members, but the jury members themselves have to be unanimous that it's more probable that he was insane than not. So it's going to be very difficult. We'll see what happens.
Yes, one of those situations where the defense does have a burden to prove that insanity in front of the jury. They have to prove that that mental disease rendered him where he could not understand the nature of his actions. Is he going to testify? Do we see attorneys put a client that they believe is insane on the stand to help support him being insane? We've got his daughter testifying.
Ooh, that's a tough question. I wasn't expecting that one. So I told you, I've been kind of a maverick on putting my clients on the stand. I do it way more than most attorneys would tell you they do. That's a tough one. You put me on the spot. Wow. I put him on the stand? Look, every defense team knows their customer. What do you really hope to achieve on the stand? You want him to dribble from the mouth and foam and scream about the CIA tapping his phones? I mean, you'd have to tell your client to lie, and you can't do that. But what if he goes on the stand and he's rational and he's coherent and he's having a lucid moment? That would absolutely devastate his case, because you're not saying that he's not guilty or that he never committed the crime. You're trying to say that he's insane. Some things are better left unsaid. I've convinced myself that I wouldn't put him on the stand, because you can't win at that point. Because if he's insane on the stand, he's going to repulse the jurors, and they're going to say this is a bad seed. If he's not insane on the stand, it's even worse. So I don't think you'd put him on the stand.
I love seeing the mental cogs at work, Michael Jaafar, where you're working through this question in real time. We get to see it. It's such a difficult case. It's going to be a difficult case for this jury. Thank you for helping us understand it better.